Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We always look at really interesting words on the Raise podcast. And today our guest has asked to talk about the word prepare. And we're going to particularly look around the menopause and kind of what happens when you think your body might need to be prepared, but you don't really know what to look out for and all those questions. And we're going to talk to an amazing lady from Vibrant Midlife, Bukky Ayoade. Good morning, Bukky. How are you doing?
I'm great. Hi, Carol. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. Goodness, Vibrant Midlife. Who doesn't want one of those, Bukky? And we're going to deep dive into that in a minute. But before we do that, what does the word prepare mean to you?
We talked about this and you shared with me, and for me, it's just getting ready, just being ready. And I checked the dictionary actually, that says make ready. So I was not far off.
I love the dictionary definition, make ready. Okay, so that's that speaks of more than just mentally preparing, doesn't it? That's a real kind of physical, make sure you've done everything that you can kind of ready. Tell us a little bit about how preparing helps you in what you do, Bukky.
So is that in my daily life or my work?
Let's go for work first of all, and then we'll go for daily.
So it just helps me keep on track.
Yeah.
As you know, with a midlife menopausal brain, you can kind of forget many things, think and to your point just before we came on, I'm doing a lot of things, so I just need to be prepared for the various items that I'm involved with, just to make sure that nothing gets muddled up. I come across, I'm professional in delivering what it is I'm doing, and so I find that preparing, and not just preparing physically to your point, but also preparing my mental state as well. Just to know, okay, what is it I'm going to be doing today, and thinking about how I'm going to approach those various tasks.
Yeah. So how does that look practically? What kind of things practically do you do to prepare? Are you a planner's lady or do you have like Trello boards or what do you do to prepare?
Nothing high tech like that, Carol. I'm a keep it simple type of girl.
Excellent.
I would review my calendar the night before.
Yeah.
I know which meetings I have. I would also make lists. So I just use a pen and paper, make a list. I'm good. And mentally, I just think about, okay, that task, how am I going to approach it? If I need to write things down, I might not necessarily do that. If I need to do some research, I will go away and do that as well. It depends on the task, but those are the kind of practical things that I do.
That's excellent, because I think sometimes, particularly with social media and the way that people are always showing their planners or showing the list of things that they're doing, people kind of feel like this is the way I should be doing it. But I think one of the elements of being truly prepared is owning how you do it yourself and doing it that way and saying, no, I'm not doing it for the gram. I'm doing it for my own mental health and well-being and professionalism. And therefore, I need to do it the way that I know how to do it. And if lists and things are your way and calendars, then that's the best way to prepare, isn't it?
So it's a list, but I do like a list with different colors pens. So I would write in black,
absolutely,
and then cross out in red or a different color, just to keep it colorful.
I don't know if you remember, but back in my day we had I think it was like 10 color pen in one pen. That was That was very, very, that was my Vibrant
I
life.
have one of those, or a
Thank
few of those
goodness.
actually.
Thank goodness. Do you have any sparkly gel pens just while we're talking about it?
No. Just that one, but I do have felts. I have different felts, and
Okay.
I just like colors. So like
You
your
might need some sparkly gel pens in your life.
okay,
I'll just
I'll
put that
take
out
that
there.
on board. I'll take that on board.
Anyone that's listening out there that wants me to sponsor glittery gel pens and send me some, I am here for it. Absolutely here for it. Anyway, we digress. I said at the top of the podcast that we were really going to talk a little bit about menopause, particularly because we're coming up to Menopause Awareness Day on the 18th of October. So, as you said, you've been very, very busy. Tell us a little bit about your preparations for all the things that you've been doing around menopause. That's a big question, Bukky. You can split that into as many bits as you want to.
Okay. So in my role at the NHS, so obviously I work at the NHS. I'm a menopause lead within our workforce training and education directorate, and that role involves creating menopause interventions for our NHS workforce.
Okay.
The NHS is the largest workforce in Europe. It's got 1.3 million people, and about 1 in 4, 1 in 3 of those people are in the age bracket that fall into the menopause age bracket. That's 45 to 55.
Okay.
And so that as an organization, they recognize that we could be vulnerable. So we need to keep those women in work, and we need to create resources that support them. So some of the things that we've done, obviously, because it's menopause month, as well as menopause day, is we had a webinar to our whole entire directorate around menopause, which that went down well. That was last week. I also have some of our networks, they're planning meetings, and they've invited me along to speak at those meetings. One of my colleagues in Southwest London, he's a man who's really he looks after the health and well-being function in Southwest London, and he's really engaged in the menopause space, and we need male allies. So he's organizing an event at the end of the month. I'll be supporting him there as well.
Excellent.
I also have a few other speaking gigs externally as well. So I was at one last week where it's called WIMBIZ Nigeria. It's a Women in Business and Public Life. It's a renowned women's organization from Nigerian, but they launched in London, and so I spoke at that platform on that platform, and I have another one coming up next week on the 19th. That's a large Nigerian bank, and they're supporting their workforce, and it's called W Community, so they have a women's community. So with all of these things, obviously I'm speaking, so I'm preparing what I'm going to say. I'm preparing, and it's, each thing is individual and different, so you have to tailor what you're saying. But at the end of the day, it's talking about menopause resources, e-learning, where people can go to find what they need, etc., etc.
That's super. It's so good to know that's happening, particularly that the people in the NHS are kind of recognizing that it's people in the NHS that are also going through the menopause, of course, and training and facilitating them so that they can continue to work. And then that has a knock-on effect for obviously the other women that they're working with. But I did also want to pull out the fact that you've got this fantastic man on board, and how important it is that men are starting to understand just how debilitating menopause is, how life-changing it is for women. I know that it's something that I've talked to my son about, so he's aware of the menopause and periods and that kind of thing, and we've always been very open. And it was actually my dad that helped me to understand when I was a teenager what my period actually was, and I remember it making me feel incredibly safe and informed. And that's so important that he's a lead on that, and then you're supporting him in that. That's excellent. tell me a little bit about your journey with menopause and what's kind of led you to specializing in this area.
So yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I'm a healthcare professional. I'm a pharmacist by profession. So I've
Okay.
always worked in that space, in the healthcare space. And my menopause was about started about 2012, that kind of time
Yeah.
was when I noticed it particularly. I wasn't working in the menopause space at that time, but I, obviously being a healthcare professional, I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Um, and I was actually living and working in Lagos, Nigeria. So I would walk into a room. Obviously, Lagos is a hot country, 32, over
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
32 degrees. And there's air conditioning all over the place. I'd walk into an air conditioned room, and I'll just all of a sudden start sweating.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I know what's going on." And, that was one of the things. So obviously the flushing I experienced. The other thing I noticed quite early on was my gut. So I used to love drinking cappuccinos, lattes, but I just found that just couldn't tolerate the milk anymore.
Mm.
I just found that I was, yeah, and I really, apart from the milk and taking that out, I just had really bad gut issues.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was a problem was elbow pain. I just had joint pain,
Okay.
elbow pain, really bad joint pain, really bad shoulder pain, all of that kind of stuff. Um, and irritability, that was another one. And then I am still actually quite sensitive to loud noises.
Right.
It just triggers me in a way. So those have been my symptoms. Obviously, moving forward and starting to work in this space, I recognize that, okay, this is what's going on, and then started to look for solutions for myself. I say I'm a pharmacist. I'm a pharmacist that doesn't like to take medication. So I knew that I wasn't going to go down the HRT route. So I was
Okay.
looking for natural solutions. So for example, with my gut, I just went on a gut reset and started to take away certain foods, introduce some other foods. So did a lot of food swaps. I recognized not having heavy, spicy meals late in the day. So I changed my eating window. So just kind of those kind of strategies were things that helped me.
Yeah. So just starting to manage things. I mean, the thing is about knowing your symptoms and managing them is that it then becomes a little bit easier to prepare. The problem is, I think, when you don't quite know what you're preparing for, that something's, as a woman, we know that something's going to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing what it looks like for us, are there symptoms that every single woman without fail are going to experience, or is it different for everyone?
So what I would say, Carol, is part of preparing for the menopause transition, which we know is a natural transition that typically will happen to every woman, is to become aware of what it is and what are the symptoms. So become aware of menopause and the stages, and they're different. It comes, there's the menopause, which is one time point. There's
Yeah.
the perimenopause, that
Yeah.
is the time that leads up to menopause, when people start to experience symptoms.
Yeah.
So become aware of what it is, become aware of what kind of symptoms women may experience, and then become aware of your own symptoms. Every woman's experience is individual, it's unique.
Yeah. So it's about us preparing by informing ourselves
Becoming
whether we think
aware,
it's happening or
getting
not.
informed. Absolutely.
Okay. Because I
It's
was
a
talking to you just
step.
before we started recording about the fact that I have long COVID and the symptoms that I have, and how difficult it is to differentiate and know what might be masking as something else. And I know that obviously a lot of ladies have got various chronic illnesses, or they may be neurodivergent in some way, so sensitive to noise and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's trying to pick it all apart and
Mm-hmm.
say, this is definitely that, and this is definitely that, which is quite an art, I think.
So I totally get that, but in preparing and being aware and knowing your own body, when you have a conversation with your healthcare professional,
Yeah.
who typically, if one has a chronic condition, you're probably being managed by a specialist.
Mm.
It's helpful to you know, to have a log of symptoms or whatever, so that you can have an informed conversation. Menopause after the age of 45, menopause is typically diagnosed by symptoms. So again, it's useful to understand symptoms, know what symptoms are possibly related to the menopause, and also knowing what's going on for yourself to help that conversation when it comes up.
So really preparing as early as possible, whether you think it might be about to happen or not, just informing yourself. I hope this doesn't put you on the spot, but what kind of age do you think we should be becoming aware of those kind of things, the menopause and that kind of thing?
I would say any woman from the age of 35.
Right.
I'm not saying menopause starts at that time.
Yeah.
But from the age of 35, if you've had a family, or you're having a family, and you start to notice changes in your body, typically we say women start to experience symptoms from 45 to 55.
Yeah.
But some women experience early menopause, some experience premature menopause, some as a result of other underlying conditions. Some, women that have cancer treatment, for example, are induced into menopause as a result of treatments, which is
Right.
surgical menopause. So there are various, but a woman should start to, just become aware of what could possibly be coming along down the road.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing you were talking about, your particular symptoms and the gut issues and that kind of thing. I think it's fair to say that preparing your body in the best way possible is just not going to hurt you, is it?
Absolutely.
It's never a bad idea to swap out those processed foods and the things that are really not great for anybody, don't really do anybody any favors. They're nice and they're comfort food, but so being able to prepare your body and look after your body. I mean, as both of us are Christians, the idea of your body being a temple and looking after it. And obviously, if you're not a Christian, you still want to look after your body. That's that's something that we understand as a temple kind of idea. But I think preparing your mind and your body to have this vibrant life that you talk about and see as so important. Tell us a little bit about what a vibrant midlife is to you.
So a vibrant midlife. I'll take a step back. There are two things I want to touch on that you talked about, Carol, just now. One is preparing mentally. That mindset piece is so important.
Yeah.
It's so key. So how I came up with the name Vibrant Midlife is, if you Google midlife, the first thing that's thrown up is midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And when I knew that I wanted to work in this space, obviously I wanted to have midlife as part of what I was saying, but I wanted it to be a and just come at it with a different paradigm. I believe midlife is an amazing phase of life. Vibrant, that word means to be energized, to be full spirited, to be, full of life and energy. And to be honest, I'm not taking away anything from the fact that women experience symptoms, which can be quite impactful.
Yeah.
But I choose this lens. I choose this paradigm of midlife and say, you know what? I know that we can live a vibrant midlife. Let's get into community and let's figure out how we do it.
Yeah, love that. I did really want to put in my friend set up a group, and it's absolutely brilliant, and it's called Oh no, see, I've forgotten it already. This was my problem. Where are my hormones gone, or something like that? But the funny thing is that I can't remember what it's called.
Okay, that's not,
So
but
whenever I look it
it'll
up,
come
I
back
think
to you.
I can't remember what it's called, and I think that's absolutely ironic.
It will
I
come
can't
back to
remember
you.
what
It
a
will come
hormone
back
group's
to
called.
you. It will come back to you.
Yeah, but the idea is that it's help I've lost my hormones, that's what it's called.
Mhm.
It's a community, and it's not
Mhm.
just a community of women that we don't know, it's a community of girls that are all at high school together.
Mhm.
And it's wonderful to just be able to be open with each other about the things
Mhm.
that we're facing and kind of say,
Mhm. Mhm.
does this happen to you, kind of thing. And I think community in any kind of case is so important, but particularly when you're going on that kind of journey, it's a really key thing to be able to get involved in for women. Who doesn't want a vibrant life? It's brilliant talking to Bukky today. If you're loving listening to the podcast, then please share it with your friends and make sure that you give us a 5-star rating on your favourite podcast platform. Back to the episode. So Bukky, I loved what you were saying about vibrant midlife. My husband and I call it a midlife avoider crisis. And we've kind of, we always, there are certain things that maybe both of us have done that are new to us, or we wouldn't expect to do. And then we say, yeah, that's our midlife avoider crisis. And you're right, it's that shift of perspective, isn't it? I said right at the beginning, who doesn't want a vibrant midlife? So what does your vibrant midlife entail?
At the moment, it's focused around my work.
Yeah.
So my work at the NHS, my work in the Vibrant Midlife Hub and the community, and my work around just supporting other women to become aware of the menopause transition, supporting them to find solutions that will help them to create a personalized menopause care plan, supporting communities, our Christian women, Black women, because out here in the UK, for example, there's a lot of talk around menopause, but the menopause space is not necessarily as diverse as it could be. So just showing Black women that there are solutions, they're out there for you, having culturally sensitive solutions.
Yeah.
My life, I enjoy travel, so my my life will involve packing my suitcase and getting on a plane and going off somewhere. Or a good meal. I love a good meal, so a nice good meal out and hanging out with my girlfriends. That's another key thing that's helpful for me. My daughter, for example, she's one of my besties, so we plan times to go out together and stuff like that.
Love
I
that.
think, yeah, that's me. I love F1, so that whenever there's a race, that gets my blood pumping and me going. Yeah.
Oh, you're like my husband. Then my husband loves his F1.
Yeah, I love
That's
F1 and love Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, those are my things.
love it. What I particularly liked was the way that your face really lights up when you talk about those things, and that is vibrancy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But just to circle back to what you're saying, the very first thing you said when I said, what is your vibrant midlife, is you talked about your job and how important it is, and how it reiterates that what you're doing in giving a space for women in the NHS who are having and going through the menopause space to understand it, how important that is, because it will be otherwise people like you that may have got lost along the way and not having that vibrant midlife because they're not being understood in the workplace, or they're not having that understanding in other contexts that are so important.
Yeah, we had a session, because we've got a session going on at work at the moment, where we talk about the people promise. So But anyway, one of the leaders of the organization, he said something that was so cool. He said, we have to look after the people that are looking after the people.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that whole organization, patient care, and we know how wonderful that organization is. We know how so many of us look to it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is manned and run by human beings who need to be looked after and supported.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just recognizing that, is it? It's doing something about it.
Actually, the do is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And being prepared to do something about it. And in that context, it's putting that time into it, the money into it, to make sure those things happen, so that you can then have that vibrant midlife that makes you love your job, and go on to serve other people in the way that they need to, which is so important, isn't it? It's that ripple effect.
And it's important even beyond the NHS and wider society, because women over 50 are the fastest growing workforce demographic.
Right.
And we also know from data that 1 in 10 women leave the workforce as a result of menopause, not being able to cope as a result of menopause symptoms. 3 in 5 or 3 in 4 would say to you that menopause symptoms have impacted them at work.
Yeah.
So it's for women to recognize themselves, and for organizations also to bear in mind that they need to be doing something now. And I know that the tide is changing.
Yeah. But the tide takes time, doesn't it? It's not a speedy process.
No, but
but again, it's preparing that space and preparing people to understand in the future how important it is, training people up, as we said earlier on, talking to our boys and making sure they know how important it is and how they can support and that kind of thing, so that they become men who are then like the guy in the NHS who's leading on it all. It's all there's a lot of preparation to do, Bukky. We need to get cracking.
And so to women listening, or even men listening, it's a case of, as I said, understand what's going on. At your workplace, ask questions.
Yeah.
Do we have anything to support women at this phase of life? If we don't, a good place to start is you start just a little cafe even. And if anyone wants to know, about any resources, or just let me know, because I can signpost you to the cows come home, to where you can get useful resources to at least get started and get the conversation started for yourself and for others as well.
Super. So we'll put all of that information into the show notes and ways that people can contact you, because that's so important to have those contacts. And I think particularly, when you're dealing with brain fog or just not being sure whether this is or isn't, perimenopause or menopause, having a named person that you can go to that has said, come to me, is really helpful.
Yeah, I write, especially on LinkedIn. I'm starting to write a lot of articles around supporting, menopause support for symptoms that we're experiencing in the workplace, all of that kind of stuff. And my social media, I talk about all sorts, all sorts.
Yeah, no,
it's
brilliant.
I posted about SEX, but
yeah, which is
go there. Well,
maybe another time, but so important. And as you said, that's probably a whole different conversation, but a conversation that needs to be had as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we always kind of throw a challenge out to the listener, and I think it seems to me anyway, the obvious challenge is, when you're listening today, it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or a man, if you're in that age bracket of menopause or not, what are you going to do to prepare your mind and inform yourself about what might happen for women around you or yourself in the future? So today, could you get in touch with Bukky? Could you go on a website? Could you listen to someone like Davina McCall or watch some of her videos that have been so informative. What can you do today? What commitment can you make to preparing yourself so that you understand the impact that this time of life can have on women, and ensure that they have a vibrant midlife and not a lonely, difficult one? Have you got anything to add to that, Bukky?
I'll just to give people some resources, so it's not okay, where do I start?
Sure.
Number one, I talked about menopause being diagnosed by symptoms. On the Vibrant Midlife website, we have a free symptom tracker, so women can get that. A couple of places that women could go themselves are Women's Health Concern. That's the patient arm of the British Menopause Society. They have a lot of useful fact sheets on there. There's another website called Rock My Menopause. That's a patient-facing website of the Primary Care Women's Health Forum. And I share these resources because these are evidence-based. They're not about hype. They're not about the TV and celebrity. These are clinicians that are put resources that I can put my hand on my heart and say, by the way, we also have something produced at the NHS. It's called the Menopause Self-Care Fact Sheet. If you just Google Menopause Self-Care Fact Sheet, it's produced in conjunction with the Self-Care Forum. It's on their website. Again, that's a brilliant resource as a starting point. So those are a few things that can get women started and men.
That's brilliant. Bukky, thank you so much. It's been so informative, and I certainly feel like I've got more of an idea of how to prepare going forward, which is key. And I may have to use some sparkly gel pens in order to do that.
Yeah, I'll get some too.
Yes, that's our challenge.
I know, right? Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. We come to the part of the podcast where I write a little verse, a little poem. So just give me a few seconds while I get my thoughts in order. Prepare. Do you know where the information is? How will it make a change? How can you go from strange to familiar, from less than to more than? How can you grow wings? How can you be someone that sings, that becomes vibrant in their midlife? Someone that recognizes the importance of being prepared for anything. It's up to you. It's your responsibility, the ability to respond. So go beyond and be prepared. There you go.
Amen.
Bukky, thank you so much for your time. I know you've been so busy, particularly this month. I know this podcast is going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.